Dillon stepped forward, scade in hand, and initiated the first click sequence. With a fluid motion, he moved from Enguarde to Viper, the 3DGR pommel glowing with a vibrant green 9 coupe. The sword's wooden grip rotated, aligning the edged blade toward Darth Morgana. As Dillon's grip tightened, a lattice of complex 3DGR vines emanated from scade, spreading out like a web to surround the Sith. Emma, her eyes focused and clear, entered the fray with a flourish of tempo and rhythm. As she moved, her number side colors flashed in rapid succession. She initiated the Duet maneuver, red 1 and yellow 2, synchronizing with Dillon's movements. Tempo lunged forward, while rhythm struck leftward, the blades weaving a mesmerizing dance. Morgana snarled, her eyes blazing with hatred. "You think your tricks will stop us?" She thrust her lightsaber forward, cutting through the 3DGR vines, but they regenerated almost instantly, their golden hue a stark contrast against the red glow. Darth Sawyer, with a sinister grin, raised his hand, unleashing a torrent of force lightning. Dillon reacted swiftly, shifting Scave's stance to pike red 2 and bringing the blade to intercept the lightning. The energy crackled and arced, dissipating harmlessly along the 3DGR structure. Emma, now in the flow of battle, executed the graceful sequence, yellow 2 and purple 7, tempo parried a fierce strike from Morgana's lightsaber, while rhythm, inverted, sliced toward Sawyer. The clash of metal and energy echoed through the valley, a symphony of battle. As the battle raged on, Dillon and Emma found themselves momentarily pushed back. Dillon quickly transitioned Scathe from row orange 8 to Enguarde blue 3, setting up a counter. With each rotation, Scave's 3DGR pommel flared, releasing bursts of golden energy that clashed against the Sith's onslaught. Emma, sensing an opening, shifted to the awakening sequence, white 6 and red 1. Rhythm struck out with initiatory activation, while tempo maintained a Viper stance. The sudden, precise movement caught Darth Morgana off guard, forcing her to backpedal. Just as Dillon and Emma seemed to gain the upper hand, a new, more ominous presence made itself known. The sky above them darkened further, and from the shadows emerged a figure cloaked in black. The air grew cold, and a palpable sense of dread washed over the combatants. The figure spoke, voice deep and resonant, filled with ancient malice. "You have come far, but this ends now." Dillon and Emma exchanged a glance, steeling themselves for whatever was to come. The newly arrived Sith Lord's lightsaber ignited with a black blade, its mere presence distorting the air around it. The clash of philosophies and power was far from over. The air grew heavy with tension as the Black Bladed Sith stepped forward, their very presence commanding the battlefield. Dillon E.T and Emma Veridaegis, battle-worn but resolute, tightened their grips on Scathe and the twin swords, tempo and rhythm. The newly arrived Sith's black lightsaber emitted a chilling hum, its blade absorbing light rather than reflecting it, an abyssal darkness that seemed to draw in all around it. Dillon glanced at Emma, his voice steady. "We can't let them break our formation. We hold, and we counter." Emma nodded, her eyes fierce with determination. "Ready when you are." With a swift movement, Dillon initiated Click 0, moving from the initial state in Enguarde to Viper Green 9. The wooden grip of Scathe rotated smoothly, aligning the edged blade toward the newcomer. Dillon executed Click 1, binding the 3DGR pommel's energy to the surrounding environment. Complex vines of the 3DGR structure emerged, twisting and writhing, creating a defensive web. Emma, matching Dillon's resolve, activated the Convergence sequence, blue 3 and green 9. Tempo shifted into the blue 3 position while rhythm followed the green 9, creating a cross-block maneuver. The two swords hummed in harmony, their energy fields interlocking to form a barrier of light and motion. The Black Bladed Sith raised their weapon, the air around them vibrating with dark power. You wield the power of the 3DGR, yet you are mere children playing with forces beyond your control. Dillon's eyes narrowed. We are more than ready. Your darkness cannot eclipse the light we bring. Darth Morgana, recovering from the previous exchange, smirked. Let's see how long you can last. With a sudden burst of speed, the Black-Bladed Sith lunged at Dillon, their black blade cutting through the 3DGR vines with an ease that was terrifying. Dillon moved quickly to click 2, shifting Scave's stance to row orange 8, a counter position. As the blades clashed, the force of the impact sent shockwaves through the air, the golden 3DGR structures flickering against the dark energy. Emma, now facing Darth Sawyer, deftly transitioned to the inversion sequence, black 0 and orange 8. Rhythm struck upward and rightward, while Tempo maintained a defensive Viper stance. Sawyer snarled, his lightsabers barely deflecting the coordinated assault. The clash created sparks that lit up the darkening sky, a dance of light and shadow. Suddenly, the Black-Bladed Sith unleashed a wave of force energy, pushing Dillon and Emma back. The 3DGR vines shattered under the onslaught, their golden hue fading as they crumbled. Dillon quickly shifted to click 3, returning Scave's stance to Enguard blue 3, trying to re-establish the defensive barrier. Emma, thrown off balance, swiftly moved into the awakening sequence, white 6 and red 1. Rhythm lashed out with a powerful strike, while Tempo moved to cover her flank. The maneuver was precise, but the Black-Bladed Sith seemed almost unfazed, effortlessly deflecting the strikes with their dark saber. As the battle reached a fever pitch, the Black-Bladed Sith revealed a hidden ability. With a wave of their hand, the ground beneath Dillon and Emma began to crack and shift. Dark tendrils of energy sprouted from the earth, aiming to ensnare the duo. Dillon, reacting quickly, called out, "Emma, now." Emma responded with the graceful sequence, yellow 2 and purple 7. Tempo parried the dark tendrils, while Rhythm cut through them with an inverted strike. The tendrils recoiled, but more kept emerging, a relentless tide of dark energy. As the Sith Lords pressed their advantage, the situation grew dire. The Black-Bladed Sith, their eyes glowing with malevolent intent, began channeling an enormous amount of dark energy, preparing a devastating attack. Dillon, breathing heavily, met Emma's gaze. "We need to combine our strengths, now." Emma nodded, her expression fierce. "Agreed. On my mark." Before they could execute their plan, the dark energy erupted, enveloping the battlefield in a blinding flash. As the light faded, Dillon and Emma found themselves separated, each facing overwhelming odds. The Black-Bladed Sith's voice echoed through the darkness, cold and victorious. "Your resistance ends here. Prepare to be consumed by the shadow." As the blinding flash faded, the battlefield revealed its stark new reality. Dillon E.T and Emma Veridaegis stood isolated, dark tendrils of force energy swirling around them. The Sith Lords, now positioned strategically apart, exuded an aura of dominance. Yet, amidst the encroaching darkness, Dillon and Emma shared a determined glance, their resolve unbroken. Dillon tightened his grip on Scave, feeling the weight of the situation. "We need to change the tide, Emma. We can't hold them off much longer like this." Emma, her blue eyes glowing with intensity, nodded. "We need a defensive maneuver, something that can buy us time to regroup." Dillon initiated Click 0, moving from Viper to Enguard blue 3. The wooden grip of Scathe rotated, aligning the edged blade towards the ground. As he progressed to click 1, the 3DGR pommel began to bind with the surroundings, the golden energy forming a network. Dillon then moved to click 2, lifting Scathe high, the vine spiraling upwards. Emma, sensing the opportunity, began the complexity sequence, white 6 and orange 8. Tempo held a viper stance while rhythm moved rightward and inverted up, cutting through the air with precision. The two swords, in harmony with Scathe, began to weave an intricate pattern of light and energy. The combined efforts of Dillon and Emma started to manifest a massive dome, constructed of complex 3DGR vines. These vines intertwined and solidified, their golden hue casting a warm glow over the battlefield. At the center, a towering mast formed, anchoring the dome and creating a shadowing effect, a stark contrast to the encroaching darkness outside. Darth Morgana, observing the creation, sneered. "You think this will protect you? We will tear it apart piece by piece." Darth Sawyer, his eyes narrowing, added, "It's only delaying the inevitable. Your resistance is futile." The dome provided a temporary respite, but the Sith were relentless. Morgana and Sawyer moved in unison, their lightsabers slashing at the 3DGR vines, which, though resistant, began to weaken under the sustained assault. Inside the dome, Dillon and Emma moved with purpose. Dillon initiated click 3, returning Scathe's stance to row orange 8, preparing for the next phase of defense. The 3DGR pommel, glowing brighter, began to channel energy into the mast, reinforcing the dome's structure. Emma, meanwhile, transitioned to the disarmament sequence, green 9 and green 9. Tempo and rhythm executed precise cuts, slicing through any dark tendrils that breached the dome's perimeter. The movements were fluid, a dance of defense and precision, reflecting Emma's mastery. As the battle raged within the dome, Dillon and Emma found a rhythm. Dillon, focusing on maintaining the structure, felt the energy of the 3DGR resonating with Scathe. "The dome is holding, but barely. We need to find a way to counterattack." Emma, her face set in concentration, replied, "We can't stay defensive forever. We need to disrupt their focus." Dillon nodded. "I'll focus on strengthening the dome. You look for an opening." As Dillon channeled more energy into the dome, the 3DGR vines shimmered with renewed vigor. However, the Sith Lords intensified their assault. The dark energy around the dome began to swirl, a maelstrom of force power threatening to collapse their defenses. Emma, seizing the moment, shifted to the awakening sequence, white 6 and red 1. Rhythm struck out with a fierce initiatory strike, while tempo held steady. The blades, glowing with a radiant energy, pierced through the dark tendrils, momentarily disrupting the Sith's assault. Suddenly, a loud crack resonated through the dome. The mast, the central anchor of their structure, began to waver. The combined might of the Sith was too much, and the 3DGR vines started to fray. Dillon, sensing the imminent collapse, shouted, "Emma, get ready. We need to strike back with everything we've got." Emma, her eyes burning with resolve, prepared for one final offensive maneuver. But as the dome's light dimmed, the Black Bladed Sith emerged, their dark aura intensifying. They raised their saber, ready to deliver a decisive blow. With the dome on the verge of collapse and the Sith poised to strike, Dillon and Emma braced themselves, knowing that their next move would determine the outcome of the battle. As the massive dome crackled and groaned under the immense pressure of the Sith's assault, Dillon E.T and Emma Veridaegis stood firm, their combined resolve a beacon amidst the encroaching darkness. The Sith Lords, Darth Morgana and Darth Sawyer, intensified their attacks, dark energy swirling around them like a malevolent storm. The Black Bladed Sith, their visage shrouded in shadow, commanded the dark forces with an aura of chilling authority. Dillon, his eyes sharp with determination, called out, "Emma, now. We need to bind them before the dome collapses." Emma nodded, her movements a symphony of precision and grace. "On it. Let's show them what we're made of." Dillon initiated Click 0, shifting from row to pike red 2. Scave's wooden grip rotated, aligning the edged blade towards himself, with the 3DGR pommel emerging from the palm base. Click 1 followed, the pommel binding with the surrounding energy. As Dillon executed Click 2, the vines of the 3DGR structure surged forth, reaching out like golden tendrils, aiming to entangle the Sith Lords. Emma, synchronizing with Dillon, engaged the Duet sequence, red 1 and yellow 2. Tempo lunged forward, while rhythm moved leftward, both swords carving intricate patterns in the air. The energy from their blades intertwined with the 3DGR vines, creating a complex web that glowed with a radiant light. The Sith were momentarily halted, their movements slowed as the vines tightened around them. The Black Bladed Sith's voice cut through the air, filled with contempt. "You think your pitiful tricks can hold us? Feel the true power of the dark side." With a swift motion, the Sith Lords summoned dark force tentacles, emerging from the shadows around them. These tendrils, writhing with malevolent energy, lashed out at the 3DGR vines, seeking to break free from the entanglement. The tentacles twisted and coiled, their dark energy clashing with the golden light of the 3DGR, creating a storm of conflicting forces. Darth Morgana sneered, her lightsaber slashing through the vines. "You can't contain the darkness. It will consume you." Darth Sawyer, his eyes blazing with dark intent, added, "Your light is but a flicker against the storm." Inside the dome, the battle intensified. Dillon moved to Click 3, shifting Scave's stance back to Engard Blue 3. The pommel's energy pulsed, reinforcing the vines and attempting to counter the Sith's dark tentacles. The 3DGR structure, though strained, held its ground, the golden vines tightening around the Sith Lords. Emma, her focus unwavering, switched to the Poise sequence, white 6 and blue 3. Tempo and rhythm moved in perfect harmony, their blades flashing as they struck at the tentacles. The dance of swords was mesmerizing, a blend of defensive parries and offensive strikes that sought to maintain the balance of light against the encroaching darkness. As the duel raged on, the massive dome began to show signs of severe strain. The cracking sounds grew louder, the structure shuddering with each assault. The mast at the center flickered, its energy fluctuating as the 3DGR vines struggled to maintain their form. The Black Bladed Sith, now partially freed from the vines, channeled a surge of dark energy. The Force tentacles grew stronger, pushing back against the golden restraints. The Sith's eyes glowed with a sinister light, their lips curling into a cruel smile. "Your resistance ends now." Dillon, feeling the weight of the situation, gritted his teeth. "We can't let them break free. Emma, give it everything you've got." Emma's voice rang out, clear and resolute. "I'm with you, Dillon. Let's do this." As the dome reached its breaking point, Dillon and Emma poured every ounce of their energy into their weapons. The 3DGR vines glowed with a brilliant intensity, wrapping around the Sith Lords in a final, desperate attempt to contain them. The golden light clashed with the dark energy, creating a dazzling display of power and resistance. The Black Bladed Sith raised their saber, dark energy swirling around them like a vortex. "Witness the end of your defiance." The energy from the 3DGR vines flickered and dimmed, their strength waning under the overwhelming force of the Sith's power. In the midst of the chaos, Dillon and Emma stood together, their faces determined. As the dome's light faded around them, the scene froze, the outcome hanging in the balance. The massive dome wavered. Dillon E.T and Emma Veridaegis stood amidst the swirling chaos, their hearts beating in unison with the remnants of the golden 3DGR vines. The air was thick with the clash of light and darkness, and the ground trembled beneath their feet. The Sith Lords, Darth Morgana and Darth Sawyer, along with the ominous Black Bladed Sith, pushed their advantage, the dark energy surrounding them becoming almost palpable. In this frozen moment, Dillon felt the weight of the battle pressing down on him, but also the strength of his resolve. He looked at Scade, the weapon that had been his companion and shield, its wooden grip now cool under his touch. The 3DGR pommel, though dimming, still pulsed with a faint golden glow, a symbol of the light they fought to protect. Emma, standing by his side, held tempo and rhythm firmly, her stance unwavering. The twin swords, though battered, remained steadfast, their number side colors a testament to her resilience and skill. Her blue eyes met Dillon's, and in that silent exchange, they both understood the gravity of the situation. The Black Bladed Sith, a figure of ancient malice and power, began to gather the dark energy around them, preparing for a final, devastating attack. The air grew colder, and a sense of foreboding washed over the battlefield. Your light fades, and with it, your hope. This is the end, the Sith intoned, their voice reverberating with dark authority. Darth Morgana and Darth Sawyer, freed from the last of the 3DGR vines, moved to flank Dillon and Emma. Their lightsabers hummed with lethal intent, ready to strike down the defenders of the light. The Sith Lords' eyes gleamed with the anticipation of victory, their faces twisted in cruel satisfaction. But Dillon and Emma were not done yet. With a final, shared nod, they resolved to make a stand. Dillon, channeling the last reserves of his strength, initiated one last movement with Scade. The sword's wooden grip rotated as he moved from Engard Blue 3 to Viper Green 9, the 3DGR pommel sparking to life with a renewed, albeit faint, green glow. Emma, mirroring Dillon's determination, executed the Convergence sequence once more, Blue 3 and Green 9. Tempo and rhythm crossed in a protective barrier, their energy fields intertwining with the remnants of the 3DGR structure. The barrier, though weakened, shimmered with a defiant light, a last bastion against the encroaching darkness. As the Black Bladed Sith unleashed their attack, a massive wave of dark energy surged towards Dillon and Emma. The clash was inevitable, the forces of light and dark meeting in a cataclysmic explosion of energy. The ground shook, and the air was filled with blinding light and roaring sound. In the blinding aftermath, as the dust began to settle, the battlefield lay in eerie silence. The once vibrant 3DGR structures were now dimmed, their golden light faded. Dillon and Emma, though battered and exhausted, remained standing, their weapons still in hand. They breathed heavily, the exertion of the battle evident in their every move. The Sith Lords, however, were not so easily defeated. Emerging from the smoke and debris, the Black Bladed Sith stood tall, their dark aura undiminished. Darth Morgana and Darth Sawyer flanked them, their expressions grim but resolute. The battle was far from over, and the forces of darkness were still a formidable threat. Yet, amidst the devastation, Dillon and Emma felt a spark of hope. They had stood their ground against overwhelming odds, and though the future was uncertain, they were not alone. Their bond, their shared strength and courage, would see them through whatever lay ahead. As the two sides faced off once more, the fate of the battle, and perhaps the world, hung in the balance. The final clash was imminent, and both light and dark prepared to unleash their full power in one last, decisive encounter. The story was not yet finished, and the next chapter would be written by the choices and actions of those who stood at the heart of this epic confrontation. As the massive dome reached its limit, the strain of the battle became palpable. The golden 3D vines, once a formidable barrier, now shimmered with a fragile glow. Struggling to contain the immense dark energy from the Sith Lords. The mast at the dome's center flickered erratically, the energy flux intensifying as the structure strained against the relentless assault. With a sudden, explosive sound, the mast snapped. The golden light that had held the dome together surged violently, then collapsed inward. The intricate web of 3D vines began to unravel, twisting and coiling as they lost cohesion. The dome's surface fractured, creating fissures that spread rapidly, releasing bursts of golden energy mixed with the encroaching dark tendrils. In a breathtaking instant, the entire structure imploded. The golden vines, now untethered, whipped wildly through the air, colliding with the ground and each other, creating a chaotic storm of debris and energy. The black void at the heart of the Sith's power clashed violently with the collapsing dome, sending shockwaves through the battlefield. The Sith Lords, caught within the imploding structure, struggled against the collapsing vines and falling debris. The ground beneath them quaked as chunks of the 3D material rained down, interspersed with jagged fragments of energy. The darkness they wielded clashed against the golden energy, creating an intense, swirling maelstrom. As the dome crumbled, Dillon E.T and Emma Veridaegis moved with swift precision. Dillon, holding scathe, initiated a rapid series of movements, deftly avoiding the collapsing structure. Emma, her twin swords flashing, parried away debris and dark tendrils that reached for them. Their synchronization was flawless, each motion a perfect counter to the chaos around them. They sprinted through the collapsing wreckage, the ground shifting and breaking apart beneath their feet. The air was thick with dust and energy, making it difficult to see, but their path was clear: escape the destruction. With agile movements, they navigated the falling rubble, the dome's collapse intensifying behind them. In a final, dramatic moment, the remnants of the dome gave way entirely. The ground opened up, and the last of the golden vines disintegrated into glowing particles, cascading down like a shattered sun. The energy contained within the structure released in a blinding flash, casting the battlefield in a brief, brilliant light. Dillon and Emma leapt from the edge of the collapsing terrain, the force of the implosion propelling them forward. They landed gracefully, just as the remaining debris settled. Behind them, the collapsed dome became a massive pile of rubble, trapping the Sith Lords within its confines. The last echoes of the clash faded, leaving a quiet, tense aftermath. The battlefield lay in silence, the dust slowly settling. Dillon and Emma stood at a safe distance, their silhouettes stark against the fading glow of the destroyed dome. The air was still charged with the remnants of the energy clash, but they had escaped the worst of it. The Sith Lords, entombed within the remnants of their own making, disappeared from legend.